Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today is Saturday, October 4th. Gosh, I'm still stuck in September. I don't know why. And 2025, Saturday, October 4th, 2025. And the NDP are just Antifa now. Well, this segment, or one tab, is also known as the NDP Leadership Race 2025. It's just communist. It's weird. It's a very, very openly anti-capitalistic policy or campaign, and I'll show you that. So weird. Netflix and CBC are grooming kids, and that's later in the show. Yeah, later on in the show today. But it's quite egregious. Everybody's kind of noticing it. There's a whole big push for cancel your Netflix campaign, things like that. And I think that that's interesting to watch because people are doing that kind of thing. Ezra Levent and Brett Wilson on ostriches, and it's interesting because the ostriches got to stay, but there was kind of the silver lining is the ostriches aren't dead, but also the ostriches are now in the custody of the CFIA, which appear, I don't know if they're mistreating the ostriches or what, but the importance of the ostrich story has fallen off because there's no imminent slaughter order, right? So there's a court thing pending. The Supreme Court's going to look at this, and the interim, some people who don't really know how to care for ostriches are tasked with caring for ostriches, and everybody thinks that's kind of weird, but the importance of the story's fallen off. And it's weird for me because everybody and their dog are rushing to the ostriches again. It seems like they're trying to reinflate this story, but I don't know that it's as important as they're trying to make it seem. So there are other more important things going on in Canada than the ostriches, and it's just weird to see all of the media, or the secondary media, making the ostriches kind of the central point right now, which is weird. I just find it strange. The gun grab update. I've got an update. Apparently the chiefs of police were not read in on what's going on with the guns, and they don't want to. According to the union, they don't want to participate in the gun grab. And a response from Maxime Bernier to the CBC, or to the reporter who asked him, are you concerned that this chief is calling the police on you about your post? And so there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, Maxime Bernier is responding to Chief Cindy. I can't say her whole name because it doesn't show up here. So Maxime Bernier says, "Here's my statement to journalists following the news that Chief Cindy reported me to the police for a hate crime. Chief Woodhouse Nipek reacts like typical petty tyrants who think they can use state coercion to shut down political opponents and people they disagree with. Nothing I wrote can be considered a hate crime under current Canadian law, at least until new censorship laws are adopted by the Carney government. Everything I wrote is true. No bodies were actually found in Kamloops since the 2021 announcement that the remains of 215 quote missing children had been found. There was no genocide. And does the chief really believe that police can arrest me because I mentioned the BS surrounding this issue, the fake white guilt, and the grifting based on it? Is she against freedom of expression? She's clearly not fit to be a national leader. It's obvious that Chief Woodhouse Nipek doesn't care about truth and reconciliation. What she wants is to ban any questioning of the narrative that would threaten the flow of billions of tax dollars from Ottawa." I think that's accurate. And so, man, it's a very, very concerning, very slippery slope to have people wanting to shape a narrative and protect a narrative using speech laws like you've been reported to the police for hate speech because you don't believe this narrative that doesn't line up with the facts as laid out by Maxime Bernier here. And not believing the narrative over the facts laid out is a way they've censored people in the past and for similar things. And it's pretty wild, right? It's pretty crazy stuff. And so basically the truth doesn't matter. Somebody said in one of the comments, and I'm struggling to remember which one it was, but it doesn't really matter, is that the truth is not a defense in Canada. Like, just because it's true doesn't mean that the court will side with you on the decision. So pretty wild stuff. I don't know how this whole thing is going to play out. It seems like we're on a very slippery slope. Here is Dr. Matt Strauss, and he is talking about Bill C-8, and I think we're going to listen to all of this. This is 3 minutes, but I think it's 3 minutes worthwhile and well spent. Here we go.
Now on to the present bill. I am concerned, as I say, by the following sections. 15.1 and 15.2 give the minister the unprecedented, incredible power to kick any private Canadian citizen off the internet, to cut off their phone line, to turn off their cell phone. That is the plain language summary, but I will quote now the bill in its legalese. If there is reasonable grounds to believe that it is necessary to do so to secure the Canadian telecommunication system against any threat, the minister may prohibit a telecommunication service provider from providing any service to the specified person. Now, perhaps this might make sense to do in an extreme circumstance, if a person is trying to cause our satellites to crash or to jam military radar. But this section does not use language about extreme threats of physical damage or threats to national security. It says any threat. And as far as I can tell, given the Liberals' incautious and bombastic use of terms like misinformation, that being any information they don't like, or existential threat, for instance, the member from Milton called the leader of my party an existential threat to our democracy, which is, of course, bananas. So given their incautious and bombastic use of these phrases, it seems to me that the industry minister could deem any speech she doesn't like any threat, and then kick that person off the internet. This section reaches Chinese Communist Party levels of government overreach, and they should be ashamed of themselves. The bill gets worse, it does not get better, Mr. Speaker. 15.2, Clause 5, gives the minister the ability to make her decision to kick someone off the internet. Secret. So imagine that. You've annoyed the Liberal Party overlords, and they've decided to kick you off the internet and cut your phone line. You can't tell anyone that you've been cut off. I have no idea how this could even possibly be enforced, but imagine being put effectively in a digital gulag, unable to use the phone or the internet or your online banking, and if you tell anyone that this happened, you could go to physical jail. I do not doubt that the Liberals will stand and say that I'm being somehow outlandish in my interpretation of this. I am not. It is there in black and white. Let me quote it for them. It seems like they haven't read it. 15.2, Clause 5. An order made under subsection 1 or 2 may include a provision prohibiting the disclosure of its existence, or some or all of its content, by any person. And if you aren't inclined to believe me, please just Google it. Bill C-8, Canadian Constitution Foundation. There you will find October 1st, 2025 publication where their expert lawyers corroborate my concerns. Mr. Speaker, I am sorry to say the bill continues to get worse. It does not get better. Section 15.4 says the minister may require any person to provide within any time any information that would help her make a decision under 15.1 or 15.2. So it seems to me that if this legislation passes in its current unamended form, the Minister of Industry could wake up one morning, decide that you or any other private citizen, maybe, possibly, she's not quite sure, could be some sort of threat to our telecommunication system, with no warrant, no trial, no automatic judicial review, she could compel Rogers or TELUS to give her that citizen's address book or their internet search history or their browser history. This is unreasonable and it is shocking. This is the Liberal Party under their new Prime Minister. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
Yeah, and so very scary stuff. The source is CPAC October 3rd, so it happened just yesterday. People are noticing how bad this stuff is. I don't seriously hear a plan from anybody to derail it. And it seems like Carney's searching for a dancing partner to get it passed. NDP, right? Are they going to Jagmeet Singh themselves again? I think, probably. I think so. That's my prediction. Dr. Virginia J. Johnson says, like, what will they do? What will they do with this free speech weapon to crack down on it through vague statements of, oh yeah, there's definitely a threat here. We definitely have to do something about this terrible threat we're facing. And who would they use that against, do you think? And here's Virginia J. Johnson to say, Maxime Bernier was arrested in 2021, fined for non-compliance, reported to the police for a hate crime 2 days ago. Randy Hillier was arrested, fined, thrown out of the PC caucus, Derek Sloan, fined, kicked out of caucus. Lindsay Shepherd, kicked out of caucus. Polyev, untouched. Right? So they're going to go after a specific group of people, maybe not Lindsay Shepherd, maybe not the Lindsay Shepherds of the world, but maybe, depending, right? And so they're going to go after some people using this tool because this is a tool now. And if somebody says something they don't like the residential schools did not kill 215 children and there's no evidence to support that claim, if you say that, then they may say that's a hate speech. That's reason to kick you off the internet. But I don't think that it is, right? What happens if you say these policies are bad? The reason that we're being bankrupt in the country is bad policies and not because of Donald Trump. Is that a hate speech, right? Who knows? You don't know until after, when the police are knocking on your door and they say, hey, you've done a hate speech, and you say, can you tell me what post was it that led you guys to come here today? And they say, we'll tell you when you're down at the station. So you could post something and think it's completely reasonable, like Lucy Connolly did. And then boom, you've got 3 years in jail, like Lucy Connolly did, 30 months, right? So pretty wild stuff. Not good. It's very, very, very concerning. And who will they use it against? Exactly who you think they'll use it against, all of their political enemies. Here is a young conservative kid, and I think it's a young conservative kid, and they're on a campus and they want to start a group talking about conservative values and things like that. And they were reaching out to the Conservative Party, and Rebel News is reporting Conservative Party of Canada National Councillor and former Doug Ford staffer Alex Corbelli, Alex C., berates young conservative who wanted to start a campus club. This is not helpful. This is not a helpful thing you're doing. He warns, I can't talk about repercussions. So here's the call.
Hi.
Hello. So I've been made aware that you started something called a tri-campus group.
Yep.
Obviously, we can't tell you what to do with your creating your own clubs. However, I want to make this absolutely, completely certain. You have no affiliation with the Conservative Party of Canada. You have no affiliation with the ratified campus clubs of the Conservative Party of Canada, and I'm going to give you some advice. This is not helpful for us. If your goal is to further the Conservative Party cause, we politely request that you cease operations. And if personally you do want to get involved in the party, I do have to tell you, as someone, so I'm the National Councillor from Ontario, I'm responsible for campus clubs on National Council. This is not a helpful thing that you're doing. So I wanted to make that aware. I can't talk about repercussions. I can't talk about any of that. You're fully within your right to do anything. However, after speaking to the campus club presidents, they wanted me to relay a message from the Conservative Party of Canada to you to please cease interaction with them, cease trying to be affiliated with them, and yeah, so.
Okay.
Thank you for volunteering for us, but when it comes to this, we have a very, very clear capacity, and we have a very, very clear chain of commands. And you are outside those chains of commands trying to ratify with the campus clubs. And I can tell you this as someone who used to run the youth wing and the PCs and has done all this. The road that you are going down, involvement in politics, unfortunately is not a very good one. So, take that as you will. And I hope you have a nice day.
Okay, thank you.
Bye for now.
Right. So the road you're going down, involvement in politics, is not a very good one. You shouldn't do that. Don't do that. Right. People don't like that I do what I do. Right. I don't care. I'll do it anyway. Here is WEF. We got to talk about digital ID. This is all about free speech, but we got to talk about digital ID. And digital ID is programmable and expirable, and they can use it to teach you, train you to do what they want. So here is WEF guy talking about all of the things they can force you to do with their digital identity and central bank currency.
The one final note I will make is that if you think about the benefits of digital money, there are huge potential gains. It's not just about digital forms of physical currency. You can have programmability, units of central bank currency with expiry dates. You could have, as I argue in my book, a potentially better and some people might see it, or a darker world where the government decides that units of central bank money can be used to purchase some things, but not other things that it deems less desirable, like, say, ammunition or drugs or pornography or something of the sort. And that is very powerful in terms of the use of a CBDC, and I think also extremely dangerous for central banks. Because ultimately, if you have different units of central bank money with different characteristics, or if you use central bank money as a conduit for economic policies in a very targeted way, or more broadly for social policies, that could really affect the integrity of central bank money and the integrity and independence of central banks. So there are wonderful notions of things that can be done with digital money, but again, I fear that technology could take us to a better place, but equally has the potential to take us to a pretty dark place.
Yeah, it has a potential for a lot of darkness. Here's Palantir CEO saying that his company will not participate in the digital ID that's being rolled out in the United Kingdom because he has personal concerns. It's a 5-minute video. We're just going to listen to the first minute or so. Here we go. Oh, I got to make sure it's not too fast. Okay, it's not. Nice.
These proposals to introduce a new form of digital ID in the UK are ones that we have been widely linked to online. So many people are talking about Palantir's involvement with that program, and I want to say that we will not be participating in that.
You will not. So tell me why.
Well, it's actually, the answer is on a couple of levels. One is I have actually personal concerns about digital ID. That's both on a technical level. I think there are other ways of addressing the challenge that we have with engaging with government services online. I think there are ways to improve that wouldn't require a wholesale new form of ID. And I think it does open up the risk of misuse as well. But also, it's a problem on a corporate level. So Palantir have long had a policy that we will help democratically elected governments to implement the policies they've been elected to deliver. And that does mean that often we are involved in the implementation of very controversial measures. However, digital ID is not one that was tested at the last election. It wasn't in the manifesto.
Yeah.
So we haven't had a clear resounding public support at the ballot box for its implementation. And as you said, we're seeing a wide divergence of views and a lot of controversy around it. So it isn't one for us.
That is
We'll leave it there. Controversy. I can't even say it how he said it. Anyway, it's interesting. I don't necessarily just take his word for it that they're not interested in that business. In fact, the follow-up question from him is, aren't you worried that your investors and stockholders will be upset that you're not trying to pin down this very lucrative next step of business? And go watch it if you're interested. It's an interesting back and forth. Fundamentally, I'm not sold that they're never going to do this, but at this point in time, they're not going to do it, I guess. So we'll see. But they're probably testing it in the background. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they change their mind, right? Our stock options and people who run us have decided that this is too big of a pie of money to keep our fingers out of, right? Dan McTeague, let's do our grab bag of governance. We've got a few more minutes before I have to cut the stream. Dan is responding to Mark Nixon, and Mark Nixon is sharing Tim Hodgson just threw $22 million at battery innovation, batteries as Canada's future commodity. Northvolt already went bankrupt. Pipelines are blocked. Energy wealth wasted. We're funding the garbage pit of failed ideas. Yeah, and it's the same with the small modular reactors. So they're making announcements of more funding for battery places, but these battery places are not in demand. People aren't looking for those batteries. We don't have a bunch of electric car companies who are building electric cars in Ontario that we need all these batteries, and they're going to try, I don't know if they're going to try and roll these out to be battery backup power for your house or something like that. But can you imagine battery backup for your house? Batteries, often the battery pack, you don't want it in the house because it could light on fire, right? So you have it outside, but then it's cold outside. So the battery, when it goes through heat and cold cycles, that's bad for batteries, right? So all of this, our climate is not built for this kind of thing. It's not a good idea. So the old lead acid batteries, they might be better for longevity and stability and safety. If you have a battery backup in your house, you probably could do a battery backup in your house, but I would rather have the lead acid batteries than the new lithium batteries, because the lithium batteries just blow up sometimes. Honestly, it's pretty wild stuff. I'm not going to play this right now, but link is in the description if you want to check it out. We'll move on. Payman and the former mayor of, I don't know which town that he was the mayor of, but these guys were talking, and Payman kind of gives an overview of what happened. Former mayor Jeff Colvin. Sorry, Jeff Colvin, I don't know which town you were mayor of, so maybe they talk about it in the video here. Here we go.
Let me recap what you just said and what happened. The feds, the RCMP, the federal police, they weren't doing their job. There was some funny business. So you asked the provincial government to investigate them, ACERT. And then when you did that, they tried to throw you in jail, claiming that you were surveilling people.
Yeah.
And when that didn't work, the Alberta government, municipal affairs, engaged in election interference to make sure that you didn't get reelected.
Yeah. Yeah. And
well, you just gave me another reason to drink tonight. That's the state of affairs in Canada. Let me recap what you just.
So election interference, RCMP intimidation, attempting to charge somebody with surveilling people when that's not the case at all. All of this stuff. Again, if there are tools like hate speech on the books and the RCMP or the police are so inclined, a politician doesn't like you because you make fun of them or call them names or something like that. A local politician doesn't like you because you post on their stuff all the time, whatever it is, they could send the police after you in a quasi-legitimate way because, oh yeah, you look at all your online posts. But really, social media is meant to give feedback to elected officials. You're supposed to be able to give feedback to elected officials like, hey, great job there. We really like the parade. Or, hey, stop sending our money to Ukraine, you communist a-hole, right? Like things like that. Pretty normal, I think, right? Normal? No. It's abnormal because the behavior of these people is egregious and abnormal. They shouldn't be doing what they're doing and they know it. They damn well know it. And nobody's calling them out for it. And they pretend like they should be doing these things. And the reality is they should not. 21 minutes in. Okay, we got to kill the stream. Thanks for watching, everybody, on the stream. If you want the whole show, head over to CanadaPoly.com. If not, that's okay. We'll catch you tomorrow. And for everybody else, we will carry on as soon as I end the stream, which I have successfully done. Here is the next story, which is Brett Wilson and the Ostriches. And Brett says, hey, Ezra Levant, might you table with the CFIA that I would contribute $100,000 to cover proper testing for the Ostriches? Clarity might help get the Liberal Party to the table. They are spending serious coin in a threat or a plan to destroy these apparently healthy birds. Rebel News says, watch Ezra Levant reports on the CFIA's seizure of an ostrich farm. So again, I feel like they're trying to pump this story up. Also, the CFIA, I don't think they need public or private people to pony up $100,000. Like, they're not going to take Brett up on his $100,000 here, but he's buying. This is like an advertisement for the brand, right? The Brett Wilson brand. It just seems weird to me because, like, again, the government agency is not going to take your $100,000 to test these birds. But also, Ezra Levant is going to use this as a leaping off point to put pressure on the CFIA. Maybe they will retest the birds, but the test is faulty. Are they going to use a PCR test? The test is faulty if they are. If they're not using a PCR test, then I don't know enough about it to talk about it one way or the other. But if they are using a PCR test, then that's faulty. Here is Elizabeth May, and I've shown this clip before, but I focused on the end of it before. This time I'm going to focus on the beginning of it, and she's talking about how most of her constituents want the ostriches retested. Again, I feel like all of these protocols around culling sick herds and things like that is a bad idea. Everybody says we have to do it. Are they worried that the flu is going to spread to all of the farms and all of the chickens are going to get flu and then are all going to just die of the flu? Because it doesn't seem like the ostriches died of the flu. And I think that, like, healthy people can recover from the flu. Not everybody can recover from the flu, right? Lots of people die every year from the flu, but healthy people live through it. And so if you live through it, shouldn't you be able to live? Rather than, like, if you happen to be in a barn where one of the other chickens gets the flu, you have to be killed too.